how life is for them, not only at work, but also in their everyday lives. So today we're visiting one nursery in Liverpool where toddlers are being looked after to help their frontline parents keep Britain moving.
It's about 7:30 right now and I'm about to leave for work for a really fun day looking after all the children with key worker parents on the front line.
My husband's a paediatric nurse and I'm just in the process of rejoining the nursing register to go back to the front line. Who are you going to play with today?
Everybody.
Everybody.
It's 8 AM and the children are starting to arrive. This morning we're going to make some cards for all the nurses and doctors in the area.
There obviously have been anxieties. A lot of our girls have children of their own and every day they're in constant contact with frontline NHS workers, and aside from that, it's utterly impossible to social distance from a 2-year-old. If they want a cuddle, you're going to give them a cuddle.
I'll do the back one, you do the pedals.
Who's picking you up today, George?
Daddy.
And is Daddy gone to work?
Yeah, I have. My name is Ferris. My daddy is a nurse.
We're immensely proud of the staff that we have here, and I send love to all the settings that have managed to remain open throughout the country. We're in it together. We've even had 2 children this week who've joined us from different settings who've unfortunately had to close. They've both settled in really well.
Who's the king of the castle?
My wife and I are both pharmacists, both at the absolute front line, helping people get medicines, and without Monkton's support in getting us to work and then looking after my kids, we wouldn't be able to do that. So thank you very much.
I'm so eternally grateful for them for helping us to look after the children. I'm a key worker, I'm a dentist, we've got our practice that we have to manage all our patients at the moment.
Without Monkton, I certainly wouldn't be able to operate in my capacity, nor would my wife, working for the NHS, treating our public at a difficult time.
What's the time, Mr. Wolf?
Monkton was opened 40 years ago by my mum, and she's very anxious about what the future looks like for us, even once we are able to fully open again. So thank you for shedding light on the struggles of the early years sector.
What do we say to our key workers?
Thank you!
So let's chat now to Dr. Sue Poole, who's the founder of Monkton Nursery School. That was where we were just a moment ago. And Purnima Tanuki, who's Chief Executive of National Day Nurseries Association. Very good morning to both of you. So Sue Poole, first of all, I mean, what a lovely nursery that looks, and the atmosphere, how wonderful. And that little girl, you know, proudly saying, my daddy is a nurse. Really important work that's being done there.
Indeed. It was lovely for me to see because I've actually been self-isolated for 6 weeks, just across the road from the nursery. But I haven't been able to see the staff working and the children playing, and they're inspirational. Every single member of staff wanted to carry on working when lockdown commenced. And they've worked longer hours. They volunteered wholeheartedly, despite these women having their own families at home, perhaps, you know, older relatives to look after. And obviously they're risking catching the virus every day. Their little charges, their beautiful little children they're looking after, are potential carriers. But strangely, nobody's been sick, so we're doing well.
Well, that is very good. And just, I mean, in a way, I suppose, the fact that you are open to look after key workers' children disguises, to a degree, a real worry for people like you who run nurseries, you know, in the slightly wider scheme of things.
It's a huge worry. There are 145 nursery settings in Liverpool, and only 50 of them are open and receiving children. We have a local nursery owners group, and we've all stayed open, but we're very, very aware of the losses that we're incurring every day. We normally have 80 children in Monkton Nursery. At the moment, we have 4 on a Monday, and it goes up to 14 midweek. So obviously the income from that is dramatically different. Initially, we did think that the government were going to allow us to furlough the staff that weren't needed and also access the nursery education funding, but that seemed to change last Friday. And now, if we receive the funding, we won't be able to get the whole 80% of the furlough payment. I have 5 staff working full-time now, and the 19 remainder are furloughed.
Panima Tanuku, I just want to read something from the Department of Education. It says it's provided continuity in funding for free childcare entitlements. It's the government has put in place a significant package of financial support for providers. What are you hearing as chief executive of the National Day Nurseries Association? What are you hearing from nursery owners, business owners who are going through this at the moment?
Good morning, Naga, and also thank you very much for highlighting nurseries today because they're all doing fantastic work. Just under 50% of nurseries up and down the country are actually open for key worker staff. But you mentioned about the government support, and of course the sector really appreciates the government support, but this word substantial package of support does not necessarily apply to all nurseries because some of the support that they've actually put forward, some of the nurseries are not able to access that because they're not eligible. But I think they only have 2 sources of income. One is the parents' fee and the other is the government funding. And of course, the government funding is for 3- and 4-year-olds, working parents, and some 2-year-olds. But that has never been funded to the level that it is supposed to be funded for years. So they're already struggling in terms of chronic underfunding. So now with the 2 schemes, the job retention scheme and the earliest funding, with the latest guidance, nurseries are only able to access a percentage of that, not all of that. Like Sue mentioned, nurseries who are open are losing money, nurseries who are closed are also losing money. And I think that is a real concern for all the nursery staff because they are really risking their life to be able to support the key workers.
Okay, so what does the sector look like after this then if you're not getting what you need now? What do you predict?
I think even before COVID-19 crisis, we have seen nurseries closing down. We had about 600 nurseries closing down since the 30 hours, policy started. But I think after this, because, as Sue pointed out, the number of children attending in England alone, only 6% of the key worker staff are actually, children are attending nurseries, and about 10% of the vulnerable children. And I think the worry is moving forward, we will never see the levels of occupancy in nursery that we have seen before this crisis. So it is absolutely difficult to actually manage a nursery with 3 or 4 children or half a dozen children because it's financially not viable at all. And I think the nurseries have other costs, the funding that the government is offering. They're saying it should cover staff wages, but they have other costs like mortgages, utilities, rent and everything. So, there has to be some continued support for survival, really.
Panima, thank you very much for your time this morning. And Dr. Supul, good luck. I wish you well with your work you're doing at the nursery. Good to speak to you this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
9:30 is